At first, economic inequality can feel like a complicated subject. It sounds political, it sounds emotional, and sometimes it sounds too large to understand clearly. But part of inequality is actually mathematical. Not all of it, of course. Real life is shaped by education, opportunity, policy, geography, family background, and many other factors. But if we look only at the numbers, one pattern becomes easier to see. Small differences at the beginning can become much larger differences over time. That is the basic mathematics behind economic inequality. Imagine two people starting their financial lives. One person begins with no invested assets and depends only on monthly income. Another person begins with a small amount of capital already invested. At first, the difference may not look dramatic. Maybe one person has a few $1,000s invested, while the other is still trying to build savings. But if that invested capital earns returns, and those returns are reinvested, the gap does not stay the same. It begins to widen. This is because percentages behave differently than fixed income. If someone owns $1,000 in assets and earns 10%, they gain $100. But if someone owns $100,000 and earns the same 10%, they gain $10,000. The percentage is equal, but the outcome is not. That is one of the clearest mathematical reasons financial gaps can expand over time. When returns are based on the size of existing capital, those who begin with more capital often receive larger absolute gains from the same rate of return. And then compounding makes the effect stronger, because the gain from this year becomes part of the base for next year. The larger base produces a larger return. Then that return adds to the base again. Over many years, this creates a curve, not a straight line. That is why inequality often grows quietly. It does not always happen through one big moment. It can happen through repeated small differences that build on each other year after year. This is also why starting points matter so much. Two people can make similar decisions, work similar hours, and even earn similar returns. But if one begins with more assets, the final outcome can be very different. The math does not treat the starting point as a small detail. It treats it as the foundation for everything that follows. Now, add unequal access. People with more capital often have access to better financial tools, better borrowing terms, better advice, and more time to wait through slow periods. That means the gap is not only about money already owned. It is also about the opportunities that money can unlock. So the mathematics becomes more than just numbers on a chart. It becomes a system of repeated advantage. More capital creates more returns. More returns create a larger base. A larger base creates more flexibility, and flexibility creates better choices. This is why economic inequality can be so difficult to reverse once it has been growing for a long time. The gap is not only visible in income, it is visible in assets, ownership, time, and access. And this is the part many people miss. Income moves month by month. But capital moves across years and decades. So when we talk about inequality, we are not only talking about who earns more today. We are also talking about who owns more, who can compound earlier, and who has more time for those returns to grow. That is the mathematics behind it. Percentages, starting points, compounding, and time. Simple ideas on their own. But together, they can explain why small financial differences can become very large over a lifetime. And that naturally leads to the next question. If wealth gaps grow through time and compounding, what happens when inflation quietly reduces the value of money itself? That is exactly what we will explore next.